Hello and welcome. This is Nonviolence International New York. My name is Jane, and today we're going to be talking to you about First Committee. The United Nations General Assembly First Committee on Disarmament and International Security convened for its 73rd annual session from October 4th to November 9th of 2018. The committee is devoted to addressing some of the most pressing disarmament issues of our time. This video will cover what was discussed, what progress has been made, and what work is left to be done. This committee session occurred in three major stages: general debates, including civil society presentations, thematic discussions, and action on draft resolutions. During general debates, member states and civil society are invited to make general statements on disarmament and international security issues. State delegations highlighted their most urgent concerns among a vast array of disarmament issues and their views on how to best address them. The most prominent theme that echoed throughout the stage was nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction, such as chemical and biological weapons. Non-nuclear weapon states generally advocated for their complete and total elimination. Holders of nuclear weapons tended to argue that the complete destruction of these weapons would be impractical, given the current precariousness of the international security landscape, and that the tenet of total elimination in the near future would be short-sighted and idealistic. The themes stressed by civil society varied greatly. They included a heavy focus on conventional weapons, especially small arms and light weapons, which claim far more casualties each year than nuclear weapons have in their nearly 80-year history. The inclusion of ammunition in disarmament instruments was of particular note. Finally, the importance of building even more momentum around gender inclusion in the disarmament discussion was heavily emphasized. Many groups called for the greater inclusion of women in the decision-making process. After the general debates concluded, thematic discussions commenced. At this stage, each issue within disarmament is further broken down and debated. The discussions were grouped into clusters, in which each state delegation was given the opportunity to voice their stances on weapons of mass destruction, outer space weapons, anti-personal landmines, and conventional weapons, among other subject matters. Here, issues far less grandiose but still highly urgent come into the fore. Among these are fully autonomous weapons using artificial intelligence, a potential arms race in outer space, and the wide-reaching global arms trade, which fuels a great deal of armed conflict, terrorism, and organized crime, the cost of which is ever growing.
Most of the deaths that are taking place due to small arms and light weapons are actually happening in situations of crime, not in situations of armed violence and conflict. Roughly 15% of the deaths due to armed violence are happening in conflict. So that means we have to see those problems together and deal with them together.
Furthermore, there was also clear frustration from states whose regions are plagued with violence from the illicit trafficking of small arms and light weapons, and the lack of progress towards the inclusion of ammunition in the Arms Trade Treaty and the UN Programme of Action on Small Arms. These states also voiced their concern over the Arms Trade Treaty being used as a tool for major arms exporters to continue proliferation for their own political and monetary objectives without adequate regulations or measures in place to prevent diversion.
Most of the illicit weapons and their ammunition actually start life as legal weapons. And that means you've got a profit motive, because there are people who are making money off these weapons, both in the legal markets and the illicit markets. So that's one problem, which is an economic problem. And anytime you've got those kinds of economic interests arrayed against civil society is at a disadvantage.
Generally, these are concerns most crucially held in developing states, whereas weapons manufacturers and exporting countries approach these issues with less urgency. Thematic discussions on the conventional weapons cluster included many states raising their concern over the potential development of weapon systems without meaningful human control. Some states welcomed the consensus report from the group of governmental experts on lethal autonomous weapon systems, while others called for a new international law requiring them to retain meaningful human control. After the thematic discussions on different weapon systems concluded, actions on draft resolutions commenced. Throughout First Committee, the committee chair first seeks to reach consensus through negotiation and by working with member states to alter and edit draft resolutions as necessary to appeal to all states. These resolutions are often sponsored by multiple states and reflect states' shared concerns about a particular issue. After these resolutions are voted on, and if a majority prevails in favour of their adoption, they are then adopted. As we enter this portion of talks, politics and bureaucracy comes to the forefront of these discussions. A highly contentious topic of debate was nuclear weapons and nuclear weapon prohibition initiatives. A clear trend in sponsorship of draft resolutions appeared. Non-nuclear states tended to align, while nuclear weapon states and their allies often found themselves on the opposite side of the debate. The former illustrated an intention to curb nuclear weapon proliferation, while the latter often advocated for nuclear weapons, arguing that they are effective deterrents against international aggressors and the best safeguard for international peace and security in the present climate. Previously adopted draft resolutions in favour of nuclear weapons prohibitions were again supported, as a result of a large majority rule by non-nuclear weapon states. While the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons was adopted with 122 states supporting the treaty, nuclear weapon states still refused to support it, meaning significant progress on total disarmament is limited. On the issue of a potential outer space arms race, the same political blocs which coalesce around the nuclear debate re-emerge around this issue as well. While resolutions on the matter of prevention have been adopted, several powerful actors, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and France, stand in opposition to the adopted resolutions prohibiting weapons in outer space. In particular, the United States stood in opposition to all 4 proposed resolutions pertaining to outer space armament. Small arms and light weapons are becoming an increasingly greater concern for the international community because of their extensive humanitarian costs. All resolutions submitted to the committee under the conventional weapons cluster pertaining to small arms and light weapons were adopted with great support during this session. This section of the discussion saw greater leadership from developing states. The Malian delegation described small arms and light weapons as the most dreaded weapons in existence. Key issues that were addressed in the area of conventional weapons were that of the Arms Trade Treaty and the UN Programme of Action on Small Arms. A strong majority of states support urgent action on these 2 initiatives and call for greater resolve in addressing the issue of small arms and light weapons. Several contentions in regards to the language of certain resolutions have been present, and further progress is left to be made in an effort to reach total consensus. Something that is becoming increasingly apparent is that civil society plays a crucial role in bridging the gap between the humanitarian reality and diplomatic discussion. It's clear from the talks at First Committee this year that civil society was much more willing to discuss topics that some states appeared reluctant to talk about, especially in the areas of ammunition, synergies, and women. It's imperative that civil society continues to push the envelope of such important issues and works closely and more openly with states who hold some of these similar positions, but which do not currently play an active role in civil society engagement. The importance of forging stronger ties with member states from every end of the political spectrum in order to make true change and achieve effective implementation cannot be understated. Great strides have been made, but the efforts must continue until civil society cooperation is completely normalised and respected. First Committee covered a lot of ground this year. However, there's still a lot more that remains untouched. The issue of unarmed aerial vehicles and lethal autonomous weapons were not addressed in draft resolutions at all, even though they were extensively discussed in the thematic discussions. It shows perhaps that there needs to be further research and development within these areas. In addition, political and economic interests were powerful forces during this year's First Committee proceedings. But the issue that is often most prevalent when it comes to disarmament is the humanitarian impact. It's easy to forget these very real implications of political agendas on real humans and their communities when sitting in the comfort of a conference room in New York City.
It helps, somehow to give hope, not just for us, but for the communities that we work with. There are people that still care, and there are still people that wants to make the world better. As cliche as it sounds, it is still important that people have that awareness that, people still care.
Hopefully this video provides some insight on the 73rd UN General Assembly First Committee on Disarmament and International Security. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to Nonviolence International New York on social media including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Medium for more in-depth analysis about First Committee. You can find more resources in the description box below, and we encourage you to check them out. See you in our next video.